Just.
Oh.
All right. Episode 52, Between Two Wheels podcast. Cycling news, commentary, analysis, and interviews from Northern California. This episode is brought to you by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get special life insurance rates. Go to healthiq.com/BTW to support the show and learn more. And as always, subscribe and share the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, TuneIn, whatever podcast service you use. And for this week, we're also once again back on our Between Two Wheels podcast YouTube channel as well. Interact with us on Facebook page by searching Between the Number 2 Wheels. And the links will be in the show notes and found in the description of the feed. Hello, I'm Tyler Janke. I'm one of your hosts for the Between Two Wheels podcast, joined again by Curt and Chris. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing just well.
Good.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Did you get to watch some cycling over the weekend?
I did. I caught a better part of Paris-Roubaix, so it was a fun race to watch. I always like to wake up early and catch that one.
Yeah, and we'll get into that show here. And Curt, welcome back from the dead and joining us. So you skipped out on 2 episodes. How do you feel about that?
I feel fine. You guys did great. I really liked the last episode, in fact. So
tell us what you liked most about the last episode.
The fact that you lost 10 balls and still shot a 78, I'm amazed by that.
Once again, I didn't say what I shot, but I did tell you offline. I didn't say on the show what I shot.
Oh, okay. Well, you said you still shot well, and then you
I
told
did.
Me
I shot amazingly well, and you don't. And I think par is actually 71 up there, which makes it a little difference. A lot of I could go through this point by point. How you can get like 4 or 5 birdies, you can get up and down on half of those lost balls, and maybe a bogey on the other, and boom, there you go. There you have it.
There was some real friendly official rulings.
So we'll have to go play golf again and see what happens. So friendly rulings, yeah, everything's stroke and distance.
Okay.
All right. So those who didn't, this is going to be a Masters show. Actually, we're going to talk about the Masters. Curt, did you watch the Masters?
I watched some of it. Yeah, for sure.
Who were you pulling for?
I was pulling for Tiger Woods.
Okay.
Didn't
work
go
out
so
too
well.
Though.
No.
So you stopped watching like midday Thursday or so?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was good that he made it to the weekend. Had a decent Sunday. Got into. I think it was hit a 69 on Sunday, so that's good.
Of course, the Tiger Slam. Yeah. Chris, you watched the Masters, I'm sure. And who were you pulling for?
I didn't really have anybody in particular I was pulling for. I always like to see Dustin Johnson do well, and as the tournament played out, I was starting to pull a little bit for McIlroy and Spieth just because they were making a good comeback. But
yeah, it was good to see Spieth make it. Your Dustin Johnson connection, is that because of his tie-in with Gretzky and Gretzky's daughter and the issues he had on tour a few years ago?
No.
Did you guys hear about that Patrick Reed guy?
Oh man,
he won.
Well, he did win, but did you hear about his history?
He's got a troubled past.
No, all I heard was they called him Captain America.
He does have a troubled past. That's why I was rooting for Tiger Woods. I didn't like that Patrick Reed guy.
Is he worse than Tiger?
Depends on...
Do we have to take this offline?
No.
Is this a family-friendly show?
Anyways, yeah, his college days, it seemed like he maybe... in golf you don't cheat, right? And he was accused of it. And accused
in golfing?
Yeah, accused by his own teammates, in fact. So
on more than one occasion.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
So,
what was he doing?
Go out into the rough and you see a ball and it looks like it's in a better spot than your ball, so you're going to play that as your ball.
Yeah, why don't you improve your lie there?
Right.
It's basically you could hit a 96 and then card a 78 with his.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Judge Smells, I think just go ahead and kick that over.
Fudge a few numbers here on the scorecard, signing for incorrect scores.
Well, that never happens with cycling, so we haven't seen any of that. There was... we talked about Primož Roglič last time, and there was some controversy about him using a motor. We're back to the motors issue. Chris, why don't you tell us? We'll take that out, and then we'll head right into to Roubaix.
Yeah, I don't think he was using a motor.
Wasn't
what are
there
you getting at? No, I think, was it 2-3 years ago, there was the initial investigations into motor use, and one of the... I don't know if it was a French or Spanish news outlet was doing some heat-based filming of some of the riders, and there was a footage clip of Roglič, and his hub was like glowing red, and that was used as evidence for, obviously he's using a motor, and his team came back and said, well, he's not using a motor, and I think that was actually a neutral wheel that he took. So
Mavic is in on it.
Must be, yeah. But it's just one of those things where it's like one of those little oddball rumors just gets stuck to a rider, and it's really difficult to shake that. And I think, Curt, you had indicated you saw something on Twitter the day that he won the time trial about motors.
Yeah, and maybe it was that old photo
Okay.
of the That
So it wasn't a new allegation.
No, and I didn't investigate it any deeper than called him a cheater and moved on.
That's the way to do it.
That's how we do it here. So coming up, we're going to do a Paris-Roubaix wrap-up show. Sagan responds to Boonen. Boonen. Sorry, I interrupt myself all the time. Boonen, brought up the Cancelero motor issue, and we did talk about that on the preview show. So Boonen, I don't know if he had a lot of egg on his face this time, but Sagan kind of responds to him, taking more than just his show pole, and ends up winning Paris-Roubaix. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to have a conversation. I'm actually planning it tonight, so we should be able to pop it in on this episode somewhere. And with Sean Begley, a cyclist with the HSR Racing presented by Birdworks team and the promoter of the Michelob Ultra Sequoia Cycling Classic race. That's the crit down there in Visalia. So we're going to have a little talk with him about that, mostly about the race.
Cool.
So here we go. Okay, so Paris-Roubaix. Curt, we missed your insights onto it. Do you want to make a prediction for who's going to win Paris-Roubaix before we get going?
I was going to say Sagan.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I'm glad that all worked out. In fact, you guys, like I said, had tremendous predictive qualities. In fact, I went back and looked at when the show was recorded because I listened to it late Sunday and I was like, is it possible they recorded after? But I'm not going to give a prediction after the race.
Wow.
It's terrible. Why? Is that a...
Well, I was going to see if you'd at least pick Sagan.
Yeah, well, of course. Now I do. Sure.
He's got those Patrick Reed qualities.
All right, exactly. So we all watched it. I got up and tuned in probably at the most opportune time, 60K to go, and I wanted to give my little breakdown of what I think happened. Unless you want to kind of talk about it. You can talk about what happened before, maybe. But what I saw from there was, and I think it was kind of the seminal thing, and we watched it a few times. Greg Van Avermaet, I think Steve R was off the front a little bit for Quick Step, and Van Avermaet kind of makes a move. The Terpstra goes with him. There's kind of some fumbling around, and then they're going through the feed zone. And Van Avermaet hits it again. And when he does so, it causes, a slight separation, right? Just about, a few hundred, not even a few hundred, a few meters between some groups of about 10 that go with him. And they kind of roll off, and then he kind of sits up. And you look back, none of those Quick Step guys are then in that front group. But it's only like a few bike lengths to the second group, but they're back there. I don't know if they were getting food. And that's when Sagan just powers up the road. He doesn't attack, and he rolls off the front. There's a 36 or so second gap to the four guys up the road. Next thing you know, he's bridging across, and Quick Step missed that move. I don't know if it was because they weren't up there. Sagan was looking around. Maybe you noticed they're not there, and next thing you know, we have 50-some K of Sagan show.
So Quick Step, they ended up with three guys basically in the chase, right?
That's what I was going to ask. How many guys did they have in that group?
Because there was at least Terpstra and
Stibar, Lampert. Was there another one up there? At some point.
Well, Gilbert, right?
Gilbert, yes. Yeah.
He was kind of falling off at that point, though, I think.
He came off a little, I would say in the 20s.
Yeah, it was a lot later than that. But Chris had mentioned that he wasn't sure if, between Gilbert and Terpstra, whether or not those two, if there was a pecking order established or if they'd work together. And you wonder in a situation like that where there's, you got to make a decision who's going to work if there was anything that happened that caused a little delay in that decision making that gave that gap up. I know that they needed to get up there, but by the time they got up to that second group that was chasing Sagan, maybe they didn't organize quickly enough.
Yeah, and they still had at that point, he's only up the road maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
With a long way to go.
Long way to go. They just, I don't know what happened. It kind of reminded me, though, it's Sagan, right? And you've made talk about him. It's not like he's a chump that can't go from a distance. We've seen him do some pretty heroic things.
No, but even if you go back to Flanders, what did he do in Flanders? He did something very, very similar, and then ended up setting up. So, maybe that plays into it, right? Maybe the guys look at him and say, "Oh, he's going to sit up again." He's definitely not going to get across. Yeah, that's great move by him.
But then you don't normally see the world champion who. he's no slouch of a world champion, and you don't just necessarily let him roll off the front. See, the difference with the Flanders was Terpstra was up the road, who was a definite danger man. These were 4 not so big of a danger, and you get him up there. Now he's got guys working with him, so it's a little bit. It reminds me of several years ago. This is when Hincapie was still racing. He was doing the Tour of Flanders, and this is when I was new to Twitter, by the way. And I called him out personally, and he didn't respond. But it was after the race. It's one of the climbs, and
nothing's changed.
Boonen, nothing's changed. Boonen ends up winning, and it was, I forget which climb it was. It was near when Boonen took off, and Hincapie says afterwards, he's like, "Oh, I missed the winning move," and my thought at the time was, Boonen was the only move you needed to really think about and watch. And you missed that guy. Of course, you missed the winning move.
Right.
And it's kind of, I don't know if it's similar in this sense, but
who was the guy on Education First who said he raced a perfect race and went with all the moves he was supposed to go with?
I think that was Van Mark.
Yeah, Sepp Van Mark. That was an interesting line. After the race, he said, I raced a perfect race. I went with everything I needed to go with. And it's like, I think Chris said it. Like you didn't go with the one move that really mattered.
I think he also followed that up with, he was spent. His legs gave everything they could. So, yeah, he definitely missed the move.
I think maybe as a language interpretation thing there, he should have said, or maybe he said, I went with all the moves I could go with.
It's possible.
Actually, I don't know that he said that, because he could have easily gone with Sagan at that moment, but he didn't.
Easily.
I was sitting there laying in my bed watching this on my phone. It looked like it would be an easy thing.
And he had Phinney in there with him too, right? I mean, Phinney did a great job working, but wonder if he could have pressured Phinney to put in a bigger dig to pull that back.
Yeah. So let's finish off the race. So we have, for the next 50K, Sagan bridges up. One by one, the riders in that group just kind of get spit out on the cobbles, and the cobbles are always so interesting. You're watching a Tour de France or a climbing stage, and you can see when guys are riding and guys just kind of peel off, and you don't expect the same exact dynamic to kind of happen on a flat road, but the cobbles, it's just like that. A little gap opens on the wheel, and next thing you know, one rider's gone, and then two, and then Dillier was there left with him. And they go into the velodrome. Dillier's taking all his poles, and Sagan beats him. And once again, track experience. Who had the track experience?
You guys did call that, yes. Yeah, but apparently Dillier is a track guy, but clearly he'd been out there for 5.5 hours or something. Yeah. That wasn't gonna matter.
So anyone, since you guys saw it from further off than I did, the beginning part, do you want to talk about anything that happened before the first last 60K?
There wasn't a lot that I saw. I mean, there was just the usual attack, counter, follow. It looked like Gilbert had ridden on to one of the Sunweb Giant guys' wheel coming out of Arenberg. They got a little gap, but it wasn't much to really materialize into anything real threatening.
You had a few crashes, right?
There were quite a few crashes.
Yeah. I mean, just a few crashes that kind of maybe nicked some guys up or took them out. But that's probably par for the course on that race.
Now, this race has fewer head count per team. Is that right?
Correct. They went to 7 this time instead of 8. And, the Tour will have like 9 to go to 8.
Right. So I wonder if that played in any role.
I mean, you have one less quick step guy up there.
Right.
Can make a difference, or one of those guys just gets a flat earlier and has to spend some time. Sagan was saying this is the first one he's been through that he hasn't had a flat or some sort of mechanical, besides tightening down his head tube, right? Whatever's going on there. Which
that was on purpose, right?
I thought it was. Well, the tightening was obviously on purpose, but Chris, you're saying that was part of the head, like a shock tube or something he had there?
Lockout.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lockout or not. I just know that's where the shock is located, is in the head tube. I don't know if he was trying to, eliminate the suspension component of it because they were through the worst of the cobbles by that point, or if it had just shooken itself loose going over the cobbles. I don't know. That
was the rumor I heard, is that he was locking it out essentially. Okay. Because they had kind of been over the worst of it, and then going into the sprint, you obviously really wouldn't want that.
Right.
So.
Which would make more sense, because I was watching him, and I'm like, he's doing like full half turns there. I mean, there's not just like a little tightening it. It's a crank down, and I'm thinking that's George Hincapie on the side of the road with your steer tube in your hands as your front wheel's still going down the road.
Right.
This says horrible news about this young Belgian kid, that ended up having a heart attack. And I heard this morning that the actual answer was he'd had cardiac arrest that caused the wreck rather than the wreck and then that causing a cardiac arrest. So I don't know if that it never makes it any better, but it seems like to me it makes it a little different about, you know, you have a course. Is it so dangerous that you guys are crashing and dying, or, you know, this is something that might have just happened in the scope of his training or something anyway. I'm not going to delve into his medical issue, but horrible situation for that team.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't make it any better. It's
Michael
terrible.
Golertz of the Veranda Willems Creelan team, 23 years old, crashed at the 148-kilometer mark remaining in the race.
Not good at all. No,
it's pretty sad. Okay, let's go through some highlights here. Speaking of that team, his teammate, Wout van Aert, looking good. He's got to have a career coming up in the classics, don't you, Jim?
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he looked real good. I mean, he was in the chase group until like you said, he drops his chain there and gets dropped out of it. But gosh, he looked strong in that chase group. Like of the 6 or 7 guys that were left there, I think they dropped Phinney and he was still there. So maybe he was in the last 6 or 7. He still looked great. I mean, he looked incredible for a guy that wasn't supposed to have that sort of endurance to go 5.5 hours. That's pretty special.
Yeah, he's had a really good classic season. It's hard to imagine that he wouldn't be able to land somewhere pretty quick.
Yeah, he ended up 13th, so he ended up in that same group with Phinney, which was 7th. Phinney was 8th, but 7th through 13th was all in the same time, 2:31 back. So yeah, he dropped his chain through that section. Kind of just, cross guy dropping his chain. I don't know, or chain got crossed up or something happened. I mean, those roads are horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do if you're making a gear change and you hit something.
So what do you think about Quick-Step not getting? I mean, they got on the podium, which you would almost think that they were. I was listening to some podcast. I think it was Neil Rogers. I don't know why I'm pointing all these people out, but I listened to a lot of podcasts, and he was predicting that he thought Quick-Step to be on the podium. He's like 100%. So they're gonna, and they actually did. But I feel like they still, even with that, they kind of like don't win. I mean, they obviously don't win, but it's almost like a failure for them to not be in that move. What do you think about Quick-Step's tactics?
The thing that Curt pointed out earlier is it seemed like they were leaning on Gilbert to be the leader. He was targeting the race to try and finish up kind of the monument sweep. And it just looked like he had run out of gas at some of the critical points. And I think Terpstra, being a good teammate, having just won Flanders the week before, kind of got what he wanted out of the season, was looking to work for Gilbert, and it may have cost them a better result, where it seemed like, based on the way Terpstra finished, he probably had the engine to motor across to Sagan. Had he done that, he probably would have lost the sprint. Maybe if Terpstra had kind of taken a little incentive and attacked before Sagan did, it may have worked out in their favor. It's really hard to say. It seems like maybe they put the eggs in the wrong basket on that one.
I don't think he was going to motor across. I mean, I wouldn't say he had the legs to motor across. If he did, he would have done it. I mean, they lost Gilbert at like 20K to go, right around there. Didn't he come off? He came off early enough that Terpstra knew he needed to make a move. So, I don't know. I'll go back to the definitive moment when Sagan took off and they weren't there. They catch up to that group, and then it didn't seem like they organized their 3 or 4 guys to pull it back right away. They were looking for everybody to work together there, and I think they needed to make a decision quickly, and bit them. So
yeah, and sometimes you play your tactics right and you still lose. I mean, sometimes Sagan
was
just
super
that much
strong.
better.
I mean, the chasing was on, and they were not bringing that back at all. Another interesting point was there was that wreck that happened. I'm trying to remember how far in, but it was maybe the 40K or so mark. What took out Christoph, and Tony Martin was still there. Right. And those are 2 guys that might have offered some firepower to at least help the cause, right? And I blame Quick-Step for that. I mean, we don't like to place blame on who causes wrecks here on the cycling podcast, but between 2 wheels. But it looked like to me it was Lampert or one of those guys, or Terpstra himself, was swerving at the front for no apparent reason. They were on the cobbles, but I mean, there probably was a reason. Took down a bunch of guys and boom, there goes some people they can help.
Yeah, and poor Tony Martin. I don't think he's had a really good cobble experience in any race.
No.
He's always seeming to hit the deck somewhere. And I don't know if he had a teammate left in the group at that point, Tony. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that could have put in a big dig to help pull that back.
Well, they did, because there was still a Nils Pollitt.
Okay.
Ended up 7th place. He was in that group with Phinney for Katusha. So there was at least him. He was still there.
Yeah.
All right. So Greg Van Avermaet, top 10. He looked like he was active. Doesn't have quite the classics the season he had last year, but I don't always put blame on. I mean, it just didn't look like he had the fitness. It looked like he was still, doing what he could for. It's kind of like Sepp Van Mark, not having all the energy going, but not being able to. But you get a top 10 when you're defending your title. That's not so bad. What about the team though? I don't see much BMC up there with him in the waning hours.
Yeah, I mean they lost Daniel Oss last year or this year, so he was a big workhorse for Avermaet, who's now a big workhorse for Sagan. So yeah, he might be a little thin on support.
So what about some teams that didn't show any? I'll just point out right to me. I take a cursory look here. Sky, they have Dylan Van Barle at 19th place and no one else in the top 40.
That's a deeper analysis than what I could do. I was just going to say, I don't
Well,
like
I just
that
was-
blue patch on the back of BMC's kit. That feels like an afterthought, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, if you want to look at problems they're having this year, start there.
Start there.
Well, the tag Hewer or Hauer, I don't know what the name of the on their arm, the green is a little offsetting as well.
Right,
It's just
there's a
kinda-
couple of spots that it just doesn't make any sense.
It's as if I had designed it.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
not well done.
Like we did our own, yeah.
I didn't point this out when we were talking about the Tour of the Basque Country or whatever it's called now. That Richie Porte was in that race. Never saw him do anything. So an interesting build up to the Tour. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Mitchelton Scott though, Trentin, he crashed and went down. All right, I heard something about busted his spine or something.
Yeah, you fractured his
bad?
thoracic spine. I've read he's already on the bike.
You can you walk that off?
Yeah, just a little ice. No, I think he's probably out for a few months or something. Not a good crash for him.
All right, so the weather wasn't so bad. It wasn't a Did you guys enjoy it? Did you enjoy the race?
I did. The time makes it difficult to really be super engaged with what's going on. I mean, I probably watched 2.5 hours of it, and I probably slept for 45 minutes of that. Just like trying to focus and then doze off, and you wake up and you see, oh, okay, the gap's still where it is. I can go back to sleep for another 10 minutes and kind of see what's going on. But it was a great race, but at the same time, just, Sagan going at 55K or whenever he went just kind of ended the excitement. I mean, there wasn't a lot of will he, won't he get caught. It was pretty clear, okay, he's not coming back.
Well, the announcers tried.
They sure did.
with
It
like
depends
10
on who you listen to, right?
Yeah, well, on the NBC Sports Gold app, whoever those announcers were, they with like 10K to
Phil
go,
and Paul.
the chase group sort of organized and they got it down. That ticker is so off, anyways. But they had ticked it from 46 seconds to 44, so the chase was on, and it was going to be a squeaker, but clearly nothing had changed, and Sagan was still trading poles with Dillier at that point, and you figured if it really got close, he would have really put in a big dig. But I don't want to say it was an easy win for Sagan, but Dillier was really nice to work with him as much as he did. So
yeah, any comments about Dillier and what is he going to do in that situation? What do you? I was texting with you weren't paying attention, but at least Chris was responding at the time. I'm like, at what point is the manager going to tell Dillier to just sit on? But then, when are you going to get a chance to get second in Paris-Roubaix either?
That's what I think he was thinking. Is if he did so much work that I do believe that Sagan may have said, "I'm cool with bringing you to the line," even though that is very risky. But you're also Peter Sagan, and you're sprinting. Dillier, who I can't remember the last time I've ever seen Dillier in a sprint, so I'm guessing
Sunday.
Sagan was probably pretty confident.
I think he beat Stuyven in a heads-up stage sprint recently.
Okay, but if I'm Peter Sagan, I probably feel pretty good about that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that on the preview. Like at some point, it's almost your responsibility, Sagan, to help drag these. You want to get to the line. You are one of the best finishers at over 250K, right? The odds are pretty good, and I think he has track experience.
Does he?
He's been on the velodrome before.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see them work together and Dillier not shirk any of his poles. He probably would have been better served to not lead out the entire last kilometer and a half or whatever it was. But
it's hard to sprint when your neck's jammed over to the left. Like
that might have been part of their agreement. Was I'll get you to the velodrome and then I'm going to get you in the sprint. So maybe he just felt obligated to sit on the front if they had any type of agreement for working together.
I really think it was one of those where he'd last call to even be in Paris-Roubaix. He's up there 200 and some K off the front. He's feeling pretty good. See Sagan roll up. They're still rolling out. He's dropping everyone else. And he's like, when is this going to happen? I mean, if he flats, I'm going to keep going. What if he flats?
Yeah.
What if that stem
What
if that stem breaks and, and then I'm solo and I've got to win. And maybe I get him in a sprint. Sagan actually said he was starting to cramp up. So,
yeah,
good for him.
Maybe
you get to go down in the history and you look back and you have Terpstra, who's won it before. He's in third place. Sagan, world champion, who's obviously won it this time, and you're sandwiched in between. That's a pretty good photo to take home.
No, that's great. You're right. And maybe when Sagan's tightening his head tube or something, you're like, pretty sure it's left. I'm pretty sure you want to spin that to the left. I don't know. Like maybe something crazy like that.
One of those reverse threaded headsets, buddy.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
you got that wrong.
Okay, so let's pick up some winners and some losers for the Paris-Roubaix. Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah. So obviously we can pick some clear winners, but I'll go a little deeper into the results sheet for Tanguy Turgi. Now, probably doesn't
bless
mean
you.
much. Yeah. So he came in with an exciting 42nd place, 12 minutes, 15 seconds back. Finished with his brother Jimmy Turgi. Now, the thing that's interesting about him is they're from France. He rides for Vital Concept Club.
Okay, I know.
19 years old.
Yeah.
Youngest finisher of the race in the last 50 years. When I was 19 years old, I don't think I could have finished Paris-Roubaix.
No, you were getting kicked out of college a few times.
That's true. I did go back. But no, I mean, that's an impressive result to pull that off at 19 years of age. I mean, that's
and 40th. I mean, that's pretty good. I heard this morning they were saying that some guy came in. He was an hour down, and the velodrome was locked. And he wanted to go around and finish, so they actually opened it up and he went around. Now there was actually 12 people that got time cut, which almost seems travesty for Paris-Roubaix, but good for this guy. 12 minutes down, 19 years old. That's stellar.
Youngest guy in 50 years to finish the race.
That is very impressive.
Curt, what do you have for a winner?
I had Peter Sagan, but I'd also note Taylor Phinney. Obviously, I don't think anybody expected him to be there. You guys had mentioned that on the predictions podcast that he was either done or this might be a chance for him to kind of have some redemption, and that was a lot better race than I would have ever expected out of him. So he would probably get my winner. He's got to be feeling good about how that all went.
Oh yeah,
I think Tyler said he's over.
It was a question, and I went back because I was like, oh, that was a little harsh, but listen to that. And first of all, we're the only prediction show that I've found that even talked about Taylor Phinney. Okay. And if you listen to that, while we have a little facetious, look, what has he done to show that he's, here? The comment then was, if he's going to be there in the last whatever, I think he can be really helpful. And he was.
I feel like Bicycling Magazine probably had him on the cover of the Paris-Roubaix edition or something.
Yeah, well, that show that they put that out 5 years ago. But this, they post out in advance.
Well, congratulations on naming the only American.
Yeah,
and adding him to your American podcast.
No. I'd just like to say it was pretty awesome to see Taylor up there, and it was cool to see him riding the way he was, pretty strong, doing what he did. And it sucked when he came off the group because he had been doing a big pole, and then right when I don't know, Terpstra or someone else came blowing by, they kind of did a little mini attack, and you could just we've all been there. We were on the front, and then the next guy comes through too hard, and you're just like, oh,
That was exactly what it was. It was like that moment where it's like, wow, really? Why are you going to do this to me?
Yeah.
Like we've all been out here for 5 hours together, and now you're going to drop me.
Yeah.
Going,
but he hung on and finished up, 8th. That's pretty impressive.
very impressive.
Yeah, good for him. My winner is, I'm going to pick Sylvain Dillier, the Swiss champ, just for being in the break for so damn long, putting it on the line like we talked about. I mean, there's a lot of winners you can take from this race, but Sagan obviously is one of them.
That was mine. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's one there. How about some losers, Chris? Do you have any losers?
Yeah, there's a few. Instead of going with loser per se, I'll just say this poor guy can't seem to catch a good result, and I always just feel bad for Sepp van Marke after these. I think he's always just right there and just can't ever land the top spot, unfortunately. So maybe one of these years he'll land a result at Flanders or Roubaix.
Yeah, that's kind of sucks that you had to pick him. Curt,
Was that a couple of losers?
you want to pick another one?
No.
Okay.
I was just saying there's many to pick from, but
Pick another one.
okay. Tom Boonen.
Good. I like it.
Was he in the race?
He wasn't in the race,
Okay.
but he was the special advisor for Lotto
Lotto.
Soudal, and I think they had a guy in the top 10, but they were just kind of absent for most of the race. And I don't know, maybe that's his strategy. It's the Peter Sagan sit-in for a win strategy. I don't know.
Yeah, a little egg on his face.
Second time you mentioned that.
The little
Omelets for
schmutz on
breakfast.
his face. I don't know.
Since we can name people who weren't in the race, I'm going to name the developers for the NBC Sports Gold app that worked on the Apple TV application specifically, and the fast forward function, which doesn't have the ability to just like slide forward. You have to literally tap twice to get 15 seconds forward. So it's 480 taps for every hour of coverage. It's ridiculous, and it's the primary reason that I watched more Paris-Roubaix this year than I probably wanted to.
Paris-Roubaix. I'm going to start calling it that.
Paris-Roubaix.
No, that does blow. You could have pulled it up on your computer though and scrolled through on that one.
I was already laying down.
You have a laptop. What?
I was in my living room.
Oh.
I didn't want to go grab a laptop. I was watching it on the big screen, and I
Gotcha.
yeah. I'll even go back further. So to begin the morning, I went to watch it, and I know it's going to be right near the end, and I pull it up on the NBC Sports app on my Apple TV, and then it wants me to authenticate that
you've got to get this done ahead of time.
And then by the time I authenticated it, it's Sagan laying his bike down in the velodrome. It's already over. It was awful. That was terrible.
Wait, Sagan won?
Yeah.
okay.
He did end up winning.
I'm picking Team Sky just because I know they're primarily Tour de France type of team, but you can't go there. I mean, you have a big budget. You could get a few guys to show up to this race. I think Geraint Thomas was going to be their hope. That was their
They've had good results.
That was going to be their deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
Stannard got third 2 years ago.
Well, the guy they left to show point out as the racist. He was like what, fourth there last
Johnny
year?
Moscon.
Yeah.
He was there this year as well. I think he may have crashed.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we've talked about. Crashes obviously take people out. Okay, so that's our things that make you go, Did you guys like that last time?
That was a lot of
Pulled that
production.
one out.
Yeah,
What do you
that's a good
have
one.
for that, Chris?
So I don't know if you guys watched the race through the end to the podium presentation, but it was a little over the top. Something I hadn't seen before. There was a pyrotechnic show. Sagan Stone came out from underneath the stage and was kind of like elevated up to him for his presentation. It was different. Not something I had expected for that race, which is usually a little more traditional.
Was there a sword in the stone that he had to pull out?
No, he pretended to drop it though when it was handed to him.
Oh, that's funny. Did they have podium girls there?
Yeah,
I don't think
Ronda
so.
Rousey.
I think they supplemented the pyrotechnic show for that.
Okay, Ronda Rousey. Jeez.
Well, he said.
Anything for you, Curt?
The thing I liked, I saw Sagan lay his bike down in the velodrome, which helped me understand that he probably didn't have a motor in it because he just left it there and walked away, and I thought that was a good thing. And then I saw a picture online of Terps. The bike is just like against a wall, and Terpstra goes up and like feels the tires like to see how much pressure was
They're
in them.
solid.
That made me. It was kind of like one of those things that makes you wonder what he's thinking. So.
Well, mine is just trying to pull us out here. The velodrome, and they take the showers there, and I guess the whole concept is they're not doing that much anymore. But back in the day, they'd be in the showers and they'd have all the interviews right there. And I heard Gilbert this morning. He was one of the last few that still do it. And he's basically saying it's the romance and it's how you were taught to do it. And it's part of the race. And he just takes in this history and he's taking a shower there in those crappy little outdoor velodromes or whatever they are, showers. And just kind of living part of the race and kind of have a little appreciation for that.
Yeah. You've always said you started this podcast with the hopes that you could get credentials someday and be there in those showers.
In the showers, yeah. I'd wear my rubber boots, though. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the preview show, the wrap-up show that we have going for this. Let's just go through quickly some of the upcoming races that we have on the calendar. It's a great portion we've got going right now. Some of the classics, I think, De Brandt, I don't even know how to Pil.
It's coming up.
It's coming up this week. And then we got some of the Ardennes classics.
I'll get the next one. Amstel Gold.
Yes,
on the
beer.
15th.
And then Chris's favorite one,
the Trobro Leon.
Dude, you mentioned that, and then you sent about the guy that won and
Damien Gaudin.
I'll have to link it up here on our YouTube. A little link that someone can click on, or that part. That is the most. It's like he's an epileptic coming across the line in his part of his post up. It's crazy.
That's the most excited win I think I've seen.
And you you saw the Primoz Roglic crash, right?
Yeah.
Did I oversell it or not?
I didn't watch the video. I think I was sick.
I expected it. I mean, it's a terrible looking crash, but it almost looks like it's the first time he's ever been on skis.
He was in the air.
The ski jumping, yes. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And like Chris said, it doesn't look like he was a professional ski jumper. It looks like somebody just said, let's see if you can do this, and pushed him down the hill.
I got to go do cycling.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Okay, so we have Amstel Gold, Trobro Leon, Flèche Wallonne coming up on the 18th, Liège-Bastogne-Liège on the 22nd, the Nevada City Classic on June. Wait, that's that World Tour?
You said upcoming classics. That's a classic that's upcoming.
That's upcoming. Then the upcoming stage races, we have Tour de Alps on the 16th to the 20th, Tour de Romandy 24 to 29, Tour de Yorkshire starting in May there, and then we have the Giro, and we'll have to do a full-on Giro preview show.
Will Froome race or will he not?
I don't know. That's the big question. And domestically on the calendar, we have the Joe Martin stage race, 12th to the 15th in the USA. Great race. If you ever get a chance to go do it, go do it.
Exciting.
So this weekend, we've been promoting the hell out of some of these races. So Auburn, we got Winchester and Auburn Crits, and then the same day you have the Juggernaut down there. We're going to talk to Sean Begley, the Sequoia Classic in Kingston. Is it Kingston or Kingsburg? Kingsburg. It's got the Scott Kingsburg crit the day before. You guys signed up for any in all of those?
All of them, all four. It's going to be a traveling
tough commute
mess.
So
go ahead.
Be my guest.
Oh, thank you. I'll probably end up doing the local stuff just because my schedule doesn't allow much else.
Yeah, and weather. What's it going to be like, Mark Finan?
Sunday looks a little dicey. Sunday looks like there's a chance of some rain. So
at least it's not a technical crit on Sunday.
It's true.
Right. I can't imagine what could go wrong.
I don't know why. I mean, I'm like, I got a reg for these, so I pre-regged and I could have just done it the day of, but I really wanted to support, like I said, I wanted to support these races, so I'm regged for Winchester and Auburn. And if it's wet at Auburn, it could be. You come down that hill and you have a left turn with those hay bales. They may just open the hay bales and let me go right down the alley.
Yeah, that would be the spot that I think everybody would be concerned about. Although the next right-hand turn is not much better.
Or the right-hander after that.
Or the left before, or the right hand at the top of the hill.
The uphill should be fairly safe, though.
Yeah. All right, so good luck out. Any last parting thoughts or any other races you want to talk about? Bike racing stuff.
Are you racing, Curt, this weekend?
Yeah, I'll definitely do Saturday. We'll see how the weather shows on Sunday, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Chris, what's your bike activity for the week? I want to get this out there so people can stalk you properly.
I'm probably going to swap out my wheels today for aluminum wheels because it looks like there's a chance of rain tonight and tomorrow, and I'd like to be able to use my brakes.
Okay.
And I struggle a little bit with the carbon wheels there.
Yeah, they don't do well. Disc brakes. Maybe you and Zimney can work on something. It's a collaboration.
Sounds like a plan.
Curt, what's your bike activity for the week look like?
try and hit all the race rides that are available that aren't on rainy days. I mean, that's it.
I'm glad you're feeling better too. And we missed you on Sunday. We did a ride. I literally think I broke part of my heart, but it repaired itself mid-ride, and I was good to go.
Probably get that checked out.
My wife seems to think the same thing, but
scary.
All right. Well, thanks guys for both coming in.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Share the show, find it, and pass it around. Subscribe on our. That's the best thing to actually do, right? Subscribe. You'll get the feed automatically in your podcast service or up on YouTube. So thanks everyone. Bye.